Have you tried Kegels and wondered if you're doing them right, or if they're even working? I'm Dr. Jocelyn, pelvic floor physical therapist and co-founder of the Vagina Docs. And in this video, I'm sharing 5 creative ways to activate your pelvic floor so you can strengthen, lift, and protect your bladder and your pelvic floor. Before we dive into this, let me briefly explain what the pelvic floor is and what it does. The pelvic floor is a group of muscles, ligaments, and connective tissues that stretch like a hammock across the bottom of the pelvis. These muscles attach from the pubic bone in the front to the tailbone in the back and side to side in between the sit bones. Key functions of the pelvic floor are support, meaning the muscles hold up the pelvic organs like the bladder, uterus, prostate, and rectum, and it keeps them these organs in the proper position. The second function is control. So the pelvic floor helps open and close the urethra and the anus, helping with control of bowel and bladder function. Third is sexual function. The pelvic floor contributes to arousal, sensation, and orgasm. Fourth is stability. So the pelvic floor is part of the deep core muscles, which includes the diaphragm, abdominals, and the back muscles to help stabilize the spine and the pelvis during movement and during breathing. And then finally, circulation. The pelvic floor helps with lymphatic blood flow to the pelvic region. So the pelvic floor is pretty much the foundation of your core, and it plays a vital role in continence, in sexual health, in posture, and in everyday activities like lifting, breathing, and laughing. So Kegels aren't just about squeezing. They're about control and about coordination. A strong, responsive pelvic floor supports your bladder, your core, and even your sexual health. If you have pelvic pain or pressure, skip the exercises I'm going to go into in this video and talk to a pelvic floor physical therapist before doing them. So you may ask, where does the 5 ways come from? Well, the pelvic floor muscles are made up of muscle fibers that align in different directions. And as a result, they kind of have different actions in terms of what their output is or what they do. By mastering awareness of how we recruit these muscles more precisely, we can develop overall better control of the pelvic floor muscles as a whole, and therefore Kegels actually work for us. Here's the deal. When we do these exercises, we aren't truly isolating certain muscle fibers within the pelvic floor, rather we are biasing certain fibers over others. So what I want you to pay attention to is the difference in sensation of each type of contraction. Got it? Okay, cool. And oh, one more thing. This is just the beginning. In future videos, I'm going to teach you how to control the ranges of motion, how to control the right side from the left side, and even coordinate with the other muscles within the deep in the outer core system. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on your alerts because you're not going to want to miss this. Not only will this help you prevent bladder leakage, but it will also enhance your sexual function, and we all can use that. So let's start by lying on your back with your knees bent, feet flat, or you can find a comfortable seated position. Place one hand on your lower belly to feel your breath. For each of these exercises, what you're going to do is you're going to exhale as you're contracting, and then you hold that contraction for 5 seconds, and then inhale and fully relax. You're going to pause the video and repeat for 2 additional reps before moving on to the next strategy that I'll guide you in. With all the strategies you're going to learn, be sure not to hold your breath or inhale as you squeeze, and don't squeeze your glutes. And try to keep your abdominals relaxed unless I tell you to engage them. So let's begin with the first way, which is the strategy to engage all the fibers. This is the strategy I begin with all my patients, and then we work backwards. And actually, I even break this down further, so if you have trouble, then comment below and I'll make another video to break it down even further. So imagine a tiny bean sitting at the vaginal opening and then another in your anus. You're gently going to squeeze your muscles around both beans and lift them into both canals at the same time. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale and release completely, and then repeat this 2 more times. You should feel this in the area between your sit bones as well as around the area between your bladder and your rectum. Next strategy. Now imagine gently drawing the left and right sides of your vagina towards the center as if you're narrowing the opening. Exhale and squeeze as you engage. Hold for 5 and then relax. Repeat this twice. Feel this one more towards your bladder. I describe this one as subtly pleasurable. This is a good one to implement during you know what. Why? Because it engages the muscles around the internal portion of the clitoris. Next strategy. Picture a bean at the opening of your anus. You're going to squeeze your muscles around it and gently pull it forward towards where your bladder sits in the front. Hold for 5, then release and repeat twice. Did this feel different from the last strategy? Because it should. Feel this one towards the back half of your pelvic floor where your anus and your rectum are located, and be sure not to squeeze your glutes. Next strategy. Squeeze around a bean sitting at the vaginal opening and pull it back towards the anus while lightly drawing your belly button in towards your spine. Hold for 5, then release and repeat 2 more times. This should also feel different from the last 2 strategies. Feel this one towards the front half of the pelvic floor where your bladder lives, or more towards the vaginal region. This last one targets our pelvic floor lifting muscles. Imagine lifting both beans, anus and vagina, straight up towards your cervix like you're lifting in an elevator. Hold for 5, then repeat for 2 more times. This one you're going to feel deep within your pelvic floor between the sit bones. By your bladder, by your anus, both, but just deeper than the other contractions. Now, take a few minutes and focus on deep diaphragmatic breathing, allowing your pelvic floor to soften and relax with each inhale, like you're breathing into your vagina. And remember, strength is important, but relaxation is just as important. And if you're unsure if any of these strategies are right for you, or if you're experiencing leakage, heaviness, pain, be sure to reach out to a pelvic floor physical therapist. And just know, like this, your pelvic floor muscles are muscles like any other place in your body, except we can't see them. So we have to go by feel, and it might take you like 2-3 times going through this video to really feel the subtle differences. It's helpful for me whenever I have my fingers on the muscle fibers because it gives my patients feedback. And then I can see if they're doing it right or wrong. Most of my patients have the hardest time pulling from front to back, and generally the easiest time lifting, pulling back to front, and then the first way of bringing the left and right walls in towards the center. Why? Because I feel like posturally we bias that, and then that cue of like cut off the flow of urine for women specifically, this targets the muscles around the urethra rather than the whole pelvic floor itself. So recap of this video, talked a little bit about the pelvic floor, what it is, what it does, taught you 5 strategies. We did the full comprehensive strategy. This is a strategy I start with my patients with. We break it down even further, so if you need that, comment below. And then we broke down how to bias the frontal plane fibers, so left and right walls in. We did the sagittal plane fibers 2 different ways, so back to front and then front to back for strategy 2 and 3. The 4th way, we focused on the vertical lift, or that might have been the 5th way. The vertical lift. So between left and right as 1, back to front is 2, front to back is 3, vertical lift was 4, and the comprehensive strategy was 5. Where we go next is we learn how to modulate how much we're contracting within each plane, and then after that we learn how to bias the right side from the left side. And why does this matter? Because for pelvic floor training, for a lot of people that pelvic floor physical therapy didn't work for them, or, whatever extra like online program didn't work for them. Well, why was that the case? Well, usually because they weren't contracting correctly, just a general strategy. But then the second thing is then it wasn't applied specifically to an exercise. So how I train my patients is I teach them like how to engage depending on the movement that they're doing. So if they're doing a leg drop or if they're pressing, we may have a different strategy, and it might depend on their anatomy or whatever their muscle function is. So while this is helpful to get you started, like I'd be super happy if my patients found this before they started with me, know that you might also want to see a pelvic floor specialist to make sure you're doing this correctly. So if you have any questions, comment below. If you found this was helpful, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and then share this. Share the great word to your friends, because I think too many women suffer in silence. So many women, and I mean guys too, and anyone in between. Our pelvic floor muscles are muscles. Like, we need to stop just sexualizing this region because it's hurting our health. Thank you so much for sticking with me on this video, and I'll see you on the next one.